Jenna, so excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody listening, since I first started, like, when was it? A couple weeks, like, hard launch that I was working with High Confectionary. I've had so many women reach out to me being like, I'm so curious about cannabis, but I don't know where to go to get it. I don't know how much to start with.
Yeah.
It's just so much curiosity with it. So I guess I want to start with just like how you founded it, why you founded it. Was it something that you felt like you were missing in your life?
Yeah, it's a couple of different things. Mm-hmm. So you grew up in LA too. So it was interesting being from LA because I felt like weed and cannabis was like kind of legal, even though it wasn't until we were actually older. Mm-hmm. Like it was definitely around more than some of my friends that grew up on the East Coast that I think, you know, the East Coast legalized much later than mm-hmm. California, even medically. So mm-hmm. they're still kind of being introduced to this as something that's a little more acceptable.
Totally.
But growing up in LA, like it was always around. And I actually smoked like before I ever had a sip of alcohol, mm-hmm. Which is like opposite so many people. And I ended up working in the industry professionally. And even though I've been like a consumer for so long, my tolerance is really low still.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that was what was missing for me is I would go into dispensaries or I'd find these products and they were really high milligrams. Mm-hmm. So they were, you know, 10, 20. You can even get like 100 milligrams, which shouldn't be allowed, but is.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, some people have crazy tolerances and like can take it.
Totally.
But my thing was like, I would cut up these edibles. So I would go to the store, I'd buy it and I'd be like, this is too much for me. Mm-hmm. I need to like reverse engineer this. And it was always a wild card of how it would feel. Like sometimes I'd be chilling. Other times I was like, if I stopped thinking about breathing, like, am I going to stop breathing? Yeah. And like, had like those kind of moments. And I'm like, this isn't how this should be. Mm-hmm. And why are we cutting things up? And so what I thought should exist is essentially like edibles that you can like build on. So instead of having to deconstruct something, like you can start with one to see how you feel. And then the next time, if you're like, all right, that was relaxing, but like, I want to have a crazy fun night out, like you can have a couple more. But there's also different use cases. And the second part is like, I think most edibles kind of tasted like shit.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to eat more than one. Like they're kind of gross. And if you read the ingredients, they have things like gelatin and like blue dye 7 and just stuff that like you don't really want to put in your body. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I wanted to create something that like tasted good and also wasn't like super bad for you. Mm-hmm. And I'm a candy addict. So
am I.
Yeah.
Well, that's what was so exciting for me at the beginning too, was because like I obviously have dabbled in smoking and like then during COVID started getting to the gummy game and was like, wow, this is a total game changer. But same, I was like, the dosing was confusing for me and I didn't know just like what was right for me or what was right based on like what my needs were.
Exactly.
Like, do I want it for like anti-stress? Do I want it for sleep? Do I want it for energy? And like people don't know that it can be for that.
Totally.
So like kind of explain to me, I just feel like there's a little bit of a stigmatization and like there's this idea of this stoner culture that we are like trying to get away from because there's a need and a want for it. But like, why is there that stigma? And like, how can we get out of that?
I think like a lot of it has to do with just like the history of cannabis. Like it was illegal for so long. Right. My grandma, like, she's so funny. She always says to me like, this isn't fun anymore. Like we used to buy it like under a bridge from a drug dealer and like the thrill. She's like, now you can just go into a store. But like, that is why I think like it hasn't been legalized for that long.
Right.
I think there's a whole generation of people that are used to living with it when it wasn't legal, when it was looked at as like a drug. I mean, it's actually in certain instances classified in the same classification as like hardcore drugs. And like that makes no sense. I think that's part of it. I also think because traditionally it was sold in such high doses and you had no control that like people had these horrible experiences and were kind of turned off and were like, I was so high. That was not fun. I'm never doing that again. I had a panic attack. And that is what I'm trying to change and show people is like, yeah, like that's if you take too much. And if you can find a product that's right for you, like that's not how it should
be.
Feel. Like you can actually use it and not even be high. Like you can just like use it to sleep or to relax, or if you are nervous about like a social thing you have to do, like it takes the edge off. But I think it's because it's just the history of it being illegal and kind of first coming into mainstream culture,
right,
that it's getting better. But we're still kind of dealing with that stereotype around it.
Of like that stoner culture.
Yeah.
And it's just it's frustrating for me when it just feels like wine and moms are so intertwined.
Yeah.
And it's totally okay to be like, it's 5 o'clock and I'm going to have my glass of wine and like share that. But if a mom is like at 5 p.m. going to take a gummy of 1 milligram, like they don't want to talk about it or tell anybody about it, or like they feel like they're going to be judged for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like people need to know what it actually can do to you, like that it doesn't actually make you like out of control or irresponsible or
dumb.
Too
people
high.
Think it makes you like dumb. There's this whole thing that like stoners aren't smart and all this, and it kills brain cells, and like I just think it's anything in moderation. Like you can say that about alcohol. Alcohol is not good for you.
Horrible for you. I hate how I feel afterwards. Like I feel also in terms of like the High Confectionary and the actual gummies.
Yeah.
Do you feel it? I know that there's obviously the sleep ones and they, different ones do different things, but can you walk me through like the collection and the flavors and then like how one really should feel when they take them?
Yeah. So right now we have 2 products. We have the sleep ones, which have a couple different things in them besides like THC. Which work together to kind of help you feel relaxed before you fall asleep. And then they don't like keep you asleep, but like they help you have a good night's sleep. And you don't wake up feeling like you took something. Like that's the problem with actual conventional sleeping pills, at least my experience, like an Advil PM or whatever.
You wake up with like that sleepy hangover.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm still asleep, but like, I'm awake. And this makes no sense. So you don't have that, and it's all natural, right? Like this stuff is grown in the ground. It's a plant.
Right.
So you're not dealing with like all these kind of chemicals that are engineered in a lab. And then we have our uplift ones, which like I love. I think they're kind of like our anytime, like you can use them actually for sleep in a different way, but they're more for like socializing, relaxing, like going on a hike, watching a TV show. I actually think I have a glass of wine with them. Like I think it's like a nice combination.
Yeah.
But again, like you're not hungover and everything in it is all natural. They're modeled after Sour Patch Kids. So,
and like, they're like, I can snack. I have to stop myself because like I could literally eat. I'm like, wait, there's only 10 in here. Like, I want more. But they're like the most delicious sour gummy candies.
Yeah, they're really sour and then like sweet. And I actually thought of like making them like that because I had these really good gummy vitamins and I would like eat one and it says like serving size 2. And I'm like, but like they're vitamins. And then you just like eat half the jar. And I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah. So I wanted something where it kind of had that same thing where like it actually tastes like candy and it tastes good.
Yeah.
I think like I always tell people that are really scared. So people that have never tried cannabis ever or like had this horrible experience. I'm like, literally eat half of one. Like I can guarantee you're not going to feel anything.
Right.
But I think it's a good kind of icebreaker to make people feel comfortable around like, okay, like that was fine. Like I now feel like confident that I can eat a whole one.
Exactly.
And then they have
slowly.
Yeah. And so it's hard to say like what the perfect dose is because like everyone's body is so different, like built differently, we metabolize things differently. But I think you kind of just have to play around and find what works for you.
Yeah.
The nice thing is like even if you eat all 10, like that is what one gummy normally is.
Right.
So you'll be okay.
You'll totally, everyone's like, well, what if I get too high? And I'm like, I heard this old wives' tale that you can eat a banana and there's like something in the banana that helps calm you down or something.
Yeah.
But I agree. I feel like that's the biggest worry for women is that they're just going to feel out of control or too high. And so that's what I've been telling people too. I've been saying like, depending on your experience with it, start with a half, wait like half hour, 45 minutes, see how you feel. If you're not feeling anything and you're like open it and you want to feel something, try the other half. But like, it doesn't have to be this thing where you try, like, where you have anxiety going into it and you have all this PTSD from previous terrible highs.
Yeah. Also, like, I have a kid. Like, I can't not function. Like, I have to, like, wake up. Like, sometimes he's up at, like, 3 a.m. and, like, I have to be alert and, like, able to go get him.
Right.
And so that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I really do think it helps people. Like, it helps me with stress. Like, last night I was, like, scared to do this podcast. And I did 2. And I was like, all right, I'm out. Like, I'm going to sleep.
And you felt that. And you felt
and I'm like, I'm fine. So it helps with, like, stuff like that.
Yeah. And you're taking something natural as opposed to whatever else. Tell me about your specific, like, what it looks like in your routine.
Yeah. So I used to drink hard alcohol, like, in college and all of that. And then after college, like, I don't know, I just got older and something happened to me. And I was like, I can't drink this anymore. Like, I would wake up in the middle of the night with a headache. I would be, like, so hungover the next day. And, like, when you're working, your weekends are precious. Like, you don't want to be hungover. You want to be able to go and, like, meet your friends and do shit. So I was like, I'm done with this. And I stopped drinking hard alcohol, like, 5 years ago.
No way.
But, like, not even intentionally. I think I just found other, like, this. Like, I found other things that, like, I could still use socially and be, like, change my, like, vibe. Like, I'm not, like, sober, but I'm not taking something that is gonna, like, make me wake up in the middle of the night and ruin my whole weekend. So that's when I really started to, like, weave this into my routine, was actually from, like, a social perspective when I wasn't drinking alcohol. Then I realized, wait a second, like, I started using it for sleep. Like, after work, I would always have, like, a lot of anxiety about just, like, all this shit I have to do the next day. So I usually would take a gummy, like, with dinner, and it just makes me relax. Like, and then I'm, like, ready to go to sleep for the night. So that's kind of how I use them in my day. Like, I definitely use them socially, and then I use them for, like, sleep and relaxation.
For, like, nighttime wind down.
Yeah. But I have friends that take them in the morning, because they're like, all right, like, I need to be, like, focused and relaxed and, like, ready for my day. And, like, it's such a small dose that they take, and it kind of just, like, calms
them down a little bit.
So that's my experience with it. But there's so many ways you can kind of weave it in.
Yeah. Let's go through some fun rapid fire questions, because I feel like this is just such a fun topic. And everybody, I remember, like, one, going to my worst high experience, which is something that really stopped me from getting high until COVID again, was when I first moved to New York. I first moved to New York, and I got stoned, and I felt my heart was, like, beating out of my chest. I was like, what am I doing? Why did I move here? It was, like, right before I was about to start filming The City. And I had, like, this whole existential crisis, and I'm like, I'm never touching pot again. And that's how I feel like so many women of our generation feel. They did it when they were in their 20s. Do you have a horrible high experience?
I have a few. I mean, one was, like, my own fault, actually. So my friends are going to laugh that I'm saying this out loud, but I was on a bachelorette party in Mexico, and we, like, went out for the night, and we, like, took a bunch of mushrooms, and we were, like, having the best time. Then it was, like, really late, and I'm like, all right, I need to, like, be able to go to sleep. So I'm like, I'm gonna just, like, eat a bunch of edibles. These weren't mine, by the way. So this is before, prior to that. I'm like, oh, it'll just, like, counteract it and make me go to sleep. And, like, it doesn't do that. Like, I didn't, like, word to the wise, never combined. Yeah, like, I like, Googled it, because I was like, why am I, like, getting more fucked up? And it's, like, I went on Reddit. I got in this, like, Reddit hole. And it was, like, never, ever, ever, like, combine these two things. Like, they build on each other, like, hold on tight. Like, you're going to have, like, 24 hours of, like, crazy. And, like, honestly, like, it was one of those moments where you just have to surrender. Like, I was like, all right, like, reminder to self, like, you just did this to yourself. It's, like, temporary, and, like, you can either, like, freak out the entire time or just, like, roll with it
and try
to, like, make it fun. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go sit outside for a little bit. But that was really scary, honestly. Like, for a bit, like, I was, like, straight up, like, looking at a fan that was off, and I, like, thought it was on. But, like, that's the point. Like, I think people were so scared to talk about this stuff. So it's like, I didn't know you're not supposed to do that.
Right. Like, or you were ashamed that you then took that many.
Yeah.
Right.
Luckily, I was around good people who were like, it's going to be fine.
Totally. But the education piece is so important, and there is education now. And that's what, like, companies like the High Confectionary are also trying to do.
Yeah, we get, like, a lot of inbound questions from our website being like, hey, I'm a first timer. Like, what do you recommend? Like, how am I going to feel? Or, like, can I take this? Literally, like we get a lot of moms and they're like, can we take this while we breastfeed? Like, is that safe? And like, it's not safe. But the point is, there's no information. People don't know where to find the information.
And they don't want to ask either. Yeah. It's such an interesting thing when it comes to women with this, because I feel like a dude would never think twice about asking or like feeling ashamed about it. Like, it's such a women's thing that I feel like, you know, what you and I are trying so hard to do is just allow women to enjoy this without feeling bad about themselves for doing so. Yeah,
and it actually can help people so much. Yeah. And I think that's what we forget. Like, there's the social fun part, but there's this other part of like health.
I know. Well, that's why I was so passionate about it, was because when I started taking gummies during COVID, I just felt like this air of lightness, you know, like I kind of just felt like, not like I wasn't taking anything seriously, but kind of, it was helping me like not overanalyze, like really just be a little bit more go with the flow. And when we're in lockdown and we're sitting in the house and I like just need a little bit of pick me up, like it's just something that has been so wonderful for me to turn to, as opposed to like an anti-anxiety medication 100%. Or like take something to go to sleep. Like, none of us want that.
And everyone takes that stuff. That's the thing.
And that I know. So I know a lot of people are also like, am I going to get the munchies? Am I going to start eating like crazy? Like, has that affected you at all?
I don't like get the munchies. Like, I would have to take so much. I feel like I get it from smoking more. I don't know why. But no, that doesn't happen. They're so like low dose and light that like,
you don't really get
that. And also like that stuff can be actually strain specific. So the cannabinoids and kind of terpenes and things that like make you feel different things. So munchies, relax, sleepy, like different strains have different chemical properties that like cause those. So I tried to pick strains that don't cause that.
Right.
I don't like that feeling. Like, so when we were testing all the different strains to put in the product, we were like, all right, let's not use ones that make you like bingey.
Yeah. Tell me about the strains a little bit.
Yes.
Like in each product.
So the sleep ones, we use a strain called Llama Kush. It's really great. It kind of is like, it's a more of an indica. So I use hybrid strains in both. I think hybrids are great because you can pick kind of like the best properties from an indica.
I prefer hybrids.
And a sativa. So like sativas have a reputation of getting you like head high and kind of like very, very uppity, that like heart racy feeling, which I don't like. And then indicas have a reputation of like, I'm going to take this and like fall asleep on my couch. Like,
Timmy always goes indica, couch.
Yeah. That's people say that. That's a good way to remember it. And so like hybrids are nice because you can kind of like use the things you like from both. So like the sleep ones have Llama Kush, which like are definitely indica leaning. So you feel more like tired and relaxed and all of that. And they're mixed. We have CBN in them and CBD. CBN is really cool. It helps you sleep and relax. And there's like some studies around that. And then we use like a tiny, tiny bit of melatonin, like a very, very baby amount.
Yeah.
The combination is great. Like, it doesn't leave you groggy. And then in the uplift ones, we use sweet gum, which is sativa leaning, but it has indica in it too. So like you don't get that heart racy feeling. That I think is what you just described.
That's what made me want to stop.
Yeah. So they're like a really nice kind of blend. And then as we develop other products, like we think about the use case, you know, like we can tease, like we're going to do like our sucking candies and lollipops and all that. It's like, all right, when are people going to eat these? Like, what do they probably want to feel? And then like me and you have to like try like 10 different strains
to figure it out.
Yeah. I think you need to actually try it and take it and see how it affects you before you're like selling it to other people.
Yeah, totally. That was what I was going to get into next, is like all the exciting stuff that we have going on. Like, we're working on hard candies.
Yeah.
We're working on like these amazing glass candy bowls.
Yeah.
Like, tell us a little bit more about those projects.
Yeah. The glass candy bowls are really exciting. So like, to your point of like why like a 5 o'clock glass of wine is so acceptable. Like, think about when you go to someone's house for dinner, right? Like, you bring a bottle of wine or a bottle of liquor. It's like no one's bringing like a pack of edibles. And I think that's because it's just, for some reason, still
I do now.
I do too.
That's what I bring is like housewarming presents or going over for dinner all the time. And people are so appreciative. Love it.
Because no one brings them that.
No.
But like, I want us to think of a nicer way to like display them, because you know, they're in bags or tins, like whatever. It's fine for like carrying in your purse, but like I'm not like putting a bag out on a table. Right. So the idea was for us to create like a beautiful bowl that they can be on a coffee table, on a bar. Like the bowl itself with a pack of gummies could be like a hostess gift.
Totally.
And so it's thinking about like, how do we get cannabis everywhere alcohol is? Because like it's in a lot of ways the same thing. People use wine to relax. People use, you know, tequila to be social. And like there is a equivalency in cannabis, but we have to make the products feel like sort of the same kind of vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like also just creating that energy that it can be like a beautiful experience at the same time. And that like, why not, you know, the culture of like the walking into a dispensary or like the product packaging, everything is just like, I think very male focused and very just like loud. And so I feel like for us, it's also important to curate the experience, like not only the brand having its own aesthetic, but really curating like your whole relaxing, like weed experience.
Yeah. And like sharing, right? Like you share a bottle of wine, right? Like you pour it and friends share it. Like being able to display it in a bowl, like you can share it and it becomes like an experience with like the group as opposed to just like something in your purse that you're kind of like secretly taking.
Right. Do your parents use cannabis?
So it's funny. Like I used to get in trouble in high school for like my mom like finding like a bag of weed in my drawer.
Major
Same.
trouble.
That was the most trouble I ever got into. And I like blamed it on someone else. I was like, oh.
I blamed it on my brother.
Yeah. I'm like, it's not mine. Like to this day, I like don't know what they think. But so it's funny. Like, yeah, I got in so much trouble. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, like especially my dad, I'm like, you literally like use this every day. So like it's kind of hypocritical.
Totally.
But I think it was illegal then. So it was like not like finding like alcohol, which like arguably is more dangerous because people drunk drive, but like they're like, this isn't legal. Like also I don't know who I got it from. I like got it from like a guy down the street. Like
but they use now. And like,
yeah, they love my gummies. And my mom's friends especially love them because I think that, like I said, that generation were the ones that like were scared. Like they were smoking pot when it was like not regulated. They had no idea how much like they were getting. And like they don't want to get like super high.
Right.
Or a bit older. Even my grandma takes them.
Really?
Yeah. She's 95.
Oh my God. I need to give them to my mom. My mom is like a little bit scared, but I'm like, you gotta do, like,
make her take a
yeah, I will. Any like out of the box activities that you've done? Or like, I mean, for me, that's what
that's the fun part.
That's the fun part. Yeah. Like, I love like when I'm traveling and I come to New York City and I'll take one and just like walk around the whole city and wander. Yeah. Or I mean, watching my shows with Timmy. Yeah. Going to see a movie.
Movies are so good.
Honestly, it expands everything.
It makes everything just like better and brighter and happier and like you're like just a little bit more aware.
Yeah.
I love like bonfires. That's my thing. Like in the summer, I take them at night and just like sit on the beach and like watch the fire. It's so fun.
That sounds so relaxing.
Yeah, it's nice. And I think the other thing is like during like yoga or like Pilates or like workout classes, it's actually quite nice because again, if you take a small dose, you're not high, but it's like you feel relaxed and you can like really lean into like the stretching and like all of that.
That helps me so much. Yeah. I feel like it helps me just become more mindful about what I'm doing. Yeah. So I'm like tuning into muscles. Yeah. And I'm like actually really focusing in more and trying harder.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then like another use case that like is fun, not as fun, is like actually when you're really nauseous, they're really helpful.
That's good to
know. Like I found like, I mean, I had this horrific stomach flu like recently. And the only thing before I got like Zofran or whatever my doctor gave me was like I smoked a little bit and it like cut my nausea immediately. And that's why a lot of people who have like going through chemotherapy and things like that use it for nausea.
Right.
So there are these like other
actual health benefits that I feel like we're just getting into too. Like the research hasn't quite been there because it's now legal. And so the research will be there and people will start to realize.
It's like plant medicine. Like, you know, everyone's saying plant medicine. Like if you look at even like other drugs, like psychedelic mushrooms, like LSD's been used for PTSD for like war veterans. Like they're doing like all these interesting things to like help people through trauma.
Right. And like the ketamine therapy and all those different things.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It gets a whole new world of stuff that like I think we're just at the surface. We're going to see like in our lifetime. I think a lot of conventional medicine has a time and place. Like we need it. I don't knock it. But I think like for things like people pop a Xanax so easily, it's like you don't have to do that. Like there's more natural ways to kind of like get that same effect.
100%.
And that's what's so exciting to me is like that stuff to see you can really like help people.
Yeah. What are you excited most about the brand, and like what are some of your like dream visions for it?
Yeah, I think like the thing that's been so exciting to me is like I spent a really long time creating the actual product, and my manufacturer and everyone were like literally going to kill me because they kept being like, you're going to love it this time. And I'm like, no, like this needs to be changed, because I think creating a good product is like half the battle.
100%.
And so it's been amazing like seeing people write in and telling me like, I love this. I had a great experience. It helped me with pain. Like I swore I'd never take an edible. I mean, your sister.
She never would take one, and now she'll take 2 during the day on like a Saturday, and she has 2 kids. I'm like, I don't know if I should call her out, but I don't think she'd care.
No, but she was like scared.
She was so scared. And I gave it to Alex from Parallel, who came to New York last night, and she said she was on LA time zone, and she popped a few and like passed out and was, it was great.
That's what's like exciting is like the people that were like, I'm never doing this again. I had a horrific experience, and they're like, oh my God, like, wow, I actually liked that. So that's what excites me about the product. But I think like having you and getting it into like the stratosphere is what's really exciting, because like we know the product's good, we know people like it, but now putting it out there and starting to do like collabs and our accessory lines and like all the
marketing,
like this is the fun stuff. And then the other thing we're working on behind the scenes is like this vision of a candy store, which like
we're gonna do it.
We are doing it.
Yeah.
But that's so exciting because like we love candy, we love cannabis, and like creating something that's fun and not intimidating.
No, and beautiful and curated. And a woman walks in and there's like people there to greet them and like answer their questions. And there's not like weird fluorescent light and like a dude that you're scared of.
Who's like hi.
Yeah.
I think like that's too is like just showing like everyone that like you can be like a normal functioning mom with a job.
High functioning mom. Like you and I both
have so much to do. Yeah. And like that, it's not, you don't have to be a stoner. Like that's not a thing anymore.
It's not.
Yeah.
No.
So that's the fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited. Like, so it happened so organically. I didn't say this at the beginning, but Jenna and I actually went to high school together, but I'm just a little older. But my sister is who put us in contact. Yeah. I had dabbled in talking about my cannabis experience, but wasn't like so full force about it. Yeah. Because I was scared. I was scared of what it would do to my business, to like what my family and friends would think of me. And then I got to this point where I was like, this is how all these conversations have to start. Like someone has to be the one that's not scared to say this stuff. And if they really believe, like I really believe what I'm saying, that like it is good for me and it doesn't make me out of control, and I'm not using it as a crutch. And you know what I mean? Like,
and I think like to your point, like that's what's so difficult about this space is that like alcohol, I always go back to alcohol, but like celebrities and influencers like can get alcohol sponsorships and it doesn't jeopardize like any of their other sponsorships. And like I've talked to a lot of people that are like, I use this behind the scenes, but like I can't publicly come out because XYZ brand is like not gonna let me work with them anymore. I've had a brand
tell me like during our period of working together, like you cannot post anything about cannabis. And it's like,
why though? Like what?
It's like legal in my state. You're not understanding what it is. But everyone's just, not everyone, people are just a little bit behind, but like
it's gonna catch up.
It's gonna catch up.
Yeah. That's also exciting, like to be in the forefront of something that's like, it's a new industry.
It is.
still, there's so much that hasn't been done yet. And so much we're like always figuring out.
And it's still not legal in all the places that it needs to be. Like it's legal in how many states in the US, you know?
I'm going to answer this wrong, but I think there's like about like a handful that don't allow it at all. Most allow some version of it. It depends. Like some are fully rec legal, others aren't. Our product, which like this is like a whole complicated thing, but like we can actually ship direct to consumer.
Well, that's what's so great about the product is that you don't actually have to go to a dispensary or like order from online, like get a delivery person.
Like you can just get it in a box to your door, which I think is
it's huge.
Yeah. So that makes it much more accessible to people, which is awesome. But yeah, like there's still states that are, you know, it's kind of this is a horrible analogy, but it's like abortion. Like unfortunately, like that went down to the states. So like states are able to make their own rules around it. And so we have a full-time lawyer on our team because like there's stuff always changing. Like a law can pass and I'm like, cool, I have to like change something on the packaging now.
Right. Yeah. Like the whole packaging.
Yeah. Like you just don't know. So that part sucks, but it's also
the growing pain of like a new company and a new industry.
Yeah. But it's also like what makes it fun and challenging and like why I get up in the morning.
Everyone check out the highconfectionary.com. Check out the High Confectionary on Instagram. Thank you so much for doing this. Like, I mean, talking to you is so easy and I'm just so excited for everything that we have to do. Like I told Timmy about the candy store, hopefully for this fall. And he was like, that would be the sickest thing ever.
Yeah, so it really would be.
We're killing
And then we can make like every candy. Like, seriously.
I know there's so many Haribo candies that I want.
I know. I want to do like gummy bears.
Yes.
When I was pregnant, cherries, I ate so many gummy bears.
The twin cherry. Same. Because that was also something that I could stomach.
Yeah, because it doesn't really taste like
anything. Yeah. Okay, amazing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.